And a man who stabbed his neighbour and then shot a policeman with a crossbow in Buckinghamshire has been sentenced to 9 years in prison. 54-year-old Jason King pleaded guilty to 1 count of GBH and affray at Aylesbury Crown Court back in November of last year. On the 20th of September, he also entered a guilty plea to a charge of grievous bodily harm. Well, on the 10th of May last year, police responded to a report that a person has been stabbed by their neighbour in High Wycombe in a warning. The footage we're about to play shows the moments an officer was shot with a crossbow. Well, these pictures were released by Thames Valley Police showing the incident. Jason King chases the unarmed officer and then shoots him in the leg.
I think he shot me. Oh, just run, just run. Just run. Guys, get back in your house. He's got a crossbow. Yes, get out of here now.
Well, shortly after, armed police caught up with King. We're about to show you the moment from police body camera footage that he was shot in the stomach following being chased into a park.
Oh, please, stay still! Stay still!
All right, let's bring in our correspondent Sadia Chowdhury, who's following this story for us. Afternoon to you, Sadia. So the sentence there of 9 years for Jason King.
Yeah, well, Jason King has a long history of mental health illnesses, but in sentencing today, the judge said that had a limited impact, if any, on his culpability. You knew exactly what you were doing and you were capable of making judgments, the judge said to King as he was sentenced to 9 years. And as you said, King had a long-standing dispute with his neighbours, and on the 10th of May in 2024, he attacked one of them by stabbing him in the stomach. He'd been waiting in the car to do that. He stabbed Alistair Mahwuto in the stomach, but his attack continued when the emergency services arrived to help the neighbour. He then began shooting at police from an upstairs window of his address using a crossbow, and later went on the run. And this is when police officers realised exactly what they were dealing with. They spoke to Sky News afterwards. They said that they realised then that there was an attacker at large, that there was a massive risk to the public. They described facing him, the officer who was shot describes facing him, and King was grinning. He says he had the biggest grin on his face and he was running towards me. Officers were given arming authority to carry longer runs and a ballistic shield, which is a much more reinforced shield. It can deal with higher caliber rounds because, of course, a crossbow has the potential to be incredibly lethal and to be able to penetrate the police stab-proof vests. So they are trained to shoot while holding them, but it does put them, of course, at a disadvantage when dealing with these ballistic shields. But armed officers said when they arrived, they knew that there was already an officer down, having been shot and injured and bleeding as a result of being shot with that crossbow that King had been firing. They said that there was a massive risk to the public, and that when they arrived, despite their pleas to King, he continued to be a threat. We spoke to the officer who pulled the trigger to eventually stop King's attack. Have a listen to what he said.
The biggest thing for me, as I recall, is the screams from the police officers. You don't hear that very often. You don't hear them screaming for other police officers. That's normally a member of the public screaming for the police. And that'll haunt me on the way. Well, I was driving the armed response car en route to High Wycombe. And obviously I had my radio in my ears, so I could hear it all. And it was the sheer and true panic from the unarmed officers and the dog handler after they were being shot at and subsequently shot, desperately trying to get the armed response there as fast as possible. And that's the bit that I think about quite regularly. You don't hear that very often.
Well, 10 of the officers who attended that day were then awarded the Thames Valley Police Federation's Bravery Award in May this year. And today the judge commended their bravery before turning to King and addressing King, saying, "You were offering very serious, potentially life-threatening violence towards police officers who were there to assist." And then he sentenced King to 9 years in prison.